In this video, we're going to be breaking down 5 MLB games happening on June 23, 2026, and providing you with a side pick and a total pick for every matchup, 10 free MLB picks in total. As usual, stick around until the end because you won't want to miss out on anything. Honestly, there's something to be said about trusting the arm you actually know versus the one you're hoping shows up. Toronto is sending out a pitcher who hasn't thrown a competitive big league pitch since last October, and his tune-up work down in AAA went, let's just say, a touch less than smoothly. The reports coming out of those rehab innings painted a guy still chasing his command, still figuring out which version of himself was going to show up on any given pitch. Now look, that's not me writing off a former Cy Young winner. His ceiling is obvious, and he's got the resume to back it up. The thing is, feel and command tend to be the very last things to return after a long layoff, especially when there's been arm surgery in the picture, and a midweek matinee against a hungry lineup waiting to ambush strikes isn't exactly a soft landing. Houston, on the flip side, runs out a starter who's quietly turned himself into one of the more reliable arms in their rotation this year. He's been keeping the baseball on the ground, working with conviction, and his road work has actually been a tick sharper than his home stuff, which kind of flips the usual road dog math sportsbooks like to lean on. Behind him there's a relief corps that's been through a full-body transformation since the early going. Their veteran closers return basically rewired the personality of those late innings, and the supporting cast has fed off that energy. Yes, Toronto grabbed the opener of this set, and yes, this is a club at home with a buzzing crowd behind them. Pretending that doesn't matter would be silly. But baseball has this funny way of letting the storyline that sells the tickets and the storyline that actually wins the game go in different directions. A returning hero against a steadier, more knowable pitching profile, with a bullpen that's been the league's hidden gem in June, that's a setup where the price feels a bit generous on the underdog side. At plus money, taking the team with fewer question marks just sits better in the stomach. As our first pick for this matchup, the Houston Astros money line is our full game side pick. Both of these clubs have spent the season looking like they're playing through a low-grade headache offensively, and it's been showing up on the scoreboard in ways that don't quite match the names on the lineup card. The Toronto side has a chase rate issue that's been quietly chipping away at their run production all year, and it's not just one bat doing the damage. Late in tight games, you'll see that pattern bubble up. Hitters pressing, expanding the zone, swinging through pitches that should be ball 4. That's how a roster that reads dangerous on paper keeps settling for 2 or 3 on the board more often than the talent really suggests. And Houston, for all the noise around their middle of the order, has been streaky in their own right, particularly when they pack up and leave their own ballpark. Their whole offensive identity right now leans on 1 or 2 big swings and a lot of polite waiting in between. The piece that really gets my attention, though, is what these two have actually produced when they share a field. If you scroll back through their meetings over the last calendar year or so, the final scores keep landing in this oddly cramped zone. Numbers like 4-2, 3-2, 6-0, 5-1, the rhythm isn't subtle once you line them up. The series opener just 24 hours ago landed at 4-2, which is basically the same story being told one more time. Toss in a daytime first pitch, which historically nudges run scoring down a touch compared to the lit-up evening atmosphere, plus the fact that both these lineups have been more grind than groove for weeks now, and the recipe doesn't really point toward fireworks. There's a counter-argument worth nodding at, because no take is complete without one. A starter returning from a long layoff occasionally gets dinged for a quick crooked number before he finds his footing, and one big inning could absolutely reshape the math here. Fair point. But that scenario also requires the visiting offense to travel well in a different time zone for a getaway-style afternoon, and that combination has been hit or miss for them all season long. Stack the trend lines, the recent head-to-head pattern, the daytime start, and 2 offenses that have been operating in second gear, and the projected number feels like it's sitting a little high for the environment we're walking into. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Quick commercial break. You know the deal. If you want to get our exclusive best sport picks to take things to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Go check it out. Commercial break over. Now back to the game. Seattle Mariners versus Pittsburgh Pirates. There's something to be said about coming home after a brutal road trip, and that's exactly the situation the home team walks into on Tuesday night. After dropping a couple of frustrating games out in the thin air of Colorado, including back-to-back losses where they stranded the tying run at third base, Pittsburgh gets to plant their feet back in front of their own crowd at PNC Park. Home cooking matters in this sport, maybe more than the casual fan gives it credit for, and the bullpen, the bats, the rhythm of it all just feels different when you're sleeping in your own bed. On the other side, Seattle is rolling and dragging baggage that goes way beyond a flight delay. Their own general manager, Justin Hollander, literally said he's never seen anything quite like what's happening on the position player side in his time with the club. And that's not me being dramatic, that's a direct quote. The lineup card has been a moving target for weeks now, with multiple regulars cycling through injury updates day by day. Throw in the fact that George Kirby has been working through a genuine slump lately, with a recent stretch that pushed his earned run average into territory you really do not want to see from a supposed top-of-the-rotation guy, and the whole picture starts to clear up. Meanwhile, the Buccos have quietly built one of the more dangerous contact offenses in all of baseball this year, sitting near the top of the league in team batting average, which is the kind of profile that punishes a control pitcher when his command goes sideways. Brian Reynolds has been swinging a hot stick lately too, including a big multi-hit, multi-RBI night in his last series, the kind of locked-in stretch where a hitter feels like the ball is moving in slow motion. Honestly, when you stack a refreshed home club with momentum at the plate against a road team dragging a banged-up roster behind them and a starting pitcher searching for answers, you take the home dog price every single time. As our first pick for this matchup, the Pittsburgh Pirates money line is our full game side pick. Now here's where things really start cooking, because the run-scoring environment for this one practically screams from the stat sheet if you know where to look. Both arms on the mound have been hunting for their best stuff lately, and Mitch Keller in particular has been candid about not quite knowing what's broken, which from a pitcher's perspective is basically code for this could take a minute to fix. He's coming off a stretch that has been one of the rougher patches of his entire career, with multiple outings cut short and traffic on the bases in inning after inning. On the visiting side, the bullpen has taken a serious hit with Matt Brash landing on the injured list earlier this month with a lat strain that is not the quick turnaround kind, and that's the type of subtraction that gets exposed in a tied middle innings game when somebody has to record big outs. The Mariners lineup, even with its current dings and dents, still leans heavily on the long ball and sits inside the top 10 in baseball for home runs, meaning one swing in this kind of soft summer air can flip a scoreboard in a hurry. Pittsburgh, for their part, has been one of the bigger surprises in the National League with their run production, ranking top 5 in the league in total runs scored, a number that genuinely catches people off guard if they haven't been paying attention to the box scores. Weather at first pitch is shaping up just about ideal for hitters, with temperatures hanging in the mid-70s, a steady breeze, zero rain in the forecast, and none of that swampy heaviness that knocks fly balls back down at the wall. Now, fair counterpoint here, PNC Park has historically played as a pitcher-friendly venue, especially with that vast left field that loves to swallow doubles into outs, and that's a legitimate fact worth respecting in this analysis. But when both starters have been bleeding runs in waves and both lineups have shown they're more than capable of stringing together crooked number innings, the ballpark dimensions alone are not enough to keep this one in a low-scoring tug-of-war. Everything points toward a noisy night at the corner of Federal and General Robinson, with both dugouts emptying that bat rack more than once. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Kansas City Royals versus Tampa Bay Rays. Tuesday night down in St. Petersburg has the feel of one of those quietly stubborn matchups that the casual fan glances at and assumes is already over before the first pitch. On paper, this is supposed to be a tidy little tune-up for the home side, a team riding the best home record in baseball and coming off a stretch where they've owned their building like they own the lease on it. Tampa Bay sits at 43-32, comfortably in the mix, and they're throwing a left-hander tonight who, when he's right at home, has been borderline untouchable against left-handed bats in particular. But here's the thing about this Kansas City club, even at 33-46, even battered up and short-handed, they keep showing up and finding ways to make games tight. They walked into the Trop on Monday with every reason to lay down, and instead they grinded out a one-run win in the kind of low-scoring scrap that this Royals roster, honestly, has built its summer around. They've been the most stubborn 13 games under team you'll find, going 4-1 in their last 5, and they did all of that without their franchise face in the lineup, which tells you something about the resolve in that clubhouse right now. The starter on the Kansas City side is a young arm who is, candidly, still figuring it out at this level, capable of a clunker but also capable of stringing together 5+ quality innings when his slider is biting. And the thing about facing a young, unpredictable righty is that even a polished, contact-oriented lineup like Tampa Bay's, which lives on putting the ball in play and grinding out runs rather than launching them, can find itself in a rhythm-killing duel. The Rays' lefty starter, for all his pedigree, is coming off his shortest outing of the year, walking a career-high number of hitters and looking, just slightly, like a guy still finding his command after a couple of lost years. That's the crack in the door. History helps the visitors here too. The Royals swept all 3 at the Trop last summer and haven't lost a series in this building since 2022, which isn't ancient hieroglyphics. That's a real, live, recent trend. Yes, you can absolutely argue the other side. Tampa is home. Tampa is hot. The bullpen has been one of the better closing units in the league with their setup mix. But this is a run-line shopping situation, not a pick-the-winner situation, and that small cushion against a team that has been playing one-run baseball almost every night out is the kind of edge you take, with a smile, every single time. As our first pick for this matchup, the Kansas City Royals to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Sliding over to how many crooked numbers get up on that scoreboard, the vibe tonight feels less like fireworks and more like one of those slow-burn chess matches where the bullpen door creaks open in the 7th and everybody in the building leans forward. Trop has a reputation, fair or unfair, as a place where the ball doesn't fly the way it does in, say, Cincinnati or Coors, and even though the new setup has played a little livelier for left-handed pull hitters, the overall atmosphere still rewards pitchers who can sequence and keep guys guessing. The Tampa lefty has been a different animal at home this season, posting numbers in his home starts that look like a flashback to his prime, and same-handed hitters have been almost helpless against him when he's on his stuff. That matters because the visiting lineup leans heavily into a left-handed pop profile in the middle of the order, and a strong same-handed matchup at the top of the game tends to drag the early innings into a crawl. On the other side, the Kansas City right-hander has volatility baked in. Sure, he's had ugly outings, but his last time out he punched out 5 and gave the Royals more than 5 solid frames against a top run scoring offense. Even his rough nights have a way of being short, meaning the bullpen gets in early, and the Royals' pen has been, quietly, one of the more dependable parts of their season. The Rays' offense, for all the talent in that lineup, has been an under-team in a big way lately, and their game plan, contact, ground balls, opposite field stuff, runners moving station to station, isn't really built to slug their way to 9 or 10 runs in a hurry. Throw in the historical pattern between these two clubs. Last year's series in this same building leaned heavily that direction, and Monday's opener went the same way without much suspense, and there's a clear rhythm forming. Now, is there a counter-argument? Absolutely. The Royals' offense has actually been catching fire over their recent run, going over the number in a healthy chunk of their last 10. And if the young righty melts down early, the floodgates can open in a hurry at this level. That's real, that's worth respecting. But weighing the home pitcher's home park dominance, the visiting bullpen's quiet competence, the lineup versus handedness mismatches, and the matchup history that just keeps repeating itself, the smarter side of the coin tonight is the quieter, lower-scoring version of this game. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. New York Yankees versus Detroit Tigers. Something feels off with the Bronx Bombers right now, and just showing up at the ballpark probably isn't going to flip the switch on its own. 3 straight losses sit in the rearview, including a weekend at home where the offense managed to scrape together a measly 3 runs across 2 games against the Reds. That's the kind of cold stretch that quietly chips away at a clubhouse, especially when the lineup is already running thin on healthy bats. The captain is on the shelf with a rib injury, the big-bodied DH is dealing with a calf strain, and one of their outfielders is out with a hamstring issue. Strip those names away and you're left with a lineup that has been visibly leaning on a handful of guys to do the heavy lifting, and the bottom third of the order has been getting absolutely buried at the plate. That piles pressure on the top of the lineup to manufacture every run, and against quality pitching, that math gets ugly fast. Swing the lens to the home dugout and the picture looks completely different. The home team has been a different animal at Comerica all year, slashing the ball with real confidence inside their own walls, while struggling to find the same gears whenever they leave town. The arm they're handing the ball to tonight is having arguably the best stretch of his career, leaning on a soft contact, pop-up heavy profile that plays perfectly in this cavernous yard of theirs. He's coming off one slightly rusty outing post-injured list, sure, but the underlying stuff is still nasty and the home setting is essentially custom-built for what he does best. On the other side of the rubber, the veteran lefty making the trip from New York has been wrestling with control gremlins ever since his elbow procedure earlier this year, surrendering 6 earned runs across just 11 innings over his last 2 outings. He still misses bats, no question about it, but the walks have crept back in and the hard contact has followed him into road parks too. Now honestly, the cliche says you don't fade a team after they just stole Game 1 of a series, and the home club's overall record at 34-44 isn't exactly the resume of a juggernaut on paper. But records can mislead in a vacuum. This is a club that has been close to a coin flip team at home and looks the part of a deeper, healthier lineup walking into tonight. Throw in the way the visitors stumbled into Motown after dropping back-to-back games over the weekend, and the motivation gap could be wider than the betting markets seem to suggest. As our first pick for this matchup, the Detroit Tigers money line is our full game side pick. Comerica Park has long carried a reputation for being a pitcher's haven, and even after the front office shaved some real estate off the fences a few seasons back, the gaps still chew up extra base hits like a wood chipper. The wall in dead center stretches out to a stubborn 412 feet, the alleys eat up well-struck line drives, and the spacious foul territory tacks on its quiet little tacks too. Weather sweetens the deal for the arms tonight. First pitch temperatures should sit somewhere in the low to mid-70s with a light northerly breeze drifting in, which is the kind of evening where well-struck flies tend to die at the warning track instead of clearing the wall. No humidity boost, no thick summer storm air to push the baseball, just clean, cool Michigan night conditions where pitchers tend to thrive. Layer in the 2 arms towing the rubber, and the picture gets even tighter. Both starters carry earned run averages comfortably below the league average mark. Both of them have shown enough swing and miss stuff to wriggle out of jams without immediately punting things over to their relief corps. Speaking of bullpens, the back-end groups on both sides have been steady enough through the middle frames to keep games from spilling open into track meets in the 7th or 8th. Here's the thing, run-scoring environments are about way more than just lineups. The ballpark dimensions, the cool air, the umpire behind the plate, the wind direction, all of it matters, and tonight nearly every one of those background variables tilts the same direction. Even the home manager has openly admitted his bats have gone through some quiet stretches recently, which tells you something about the offensive tempo around this series. Now to be fair, baseball doesn't owe anyone a quiet night, and one ugly inning out of either bullpen can flip a tight game into a slugfest in a hurry. But the weight of the evidence here, the park, the weather, the pitching matchup, the way both lineups have been generally scuffling, all of it nudges the dial the same calm, controlled way. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Texas Rangers versus Miami Marlins. Tuesday night in Little Havana feels like one of those quietly stacked matchups that the casual fan might breeze past, but the bones of this one keep pointing in the same direction. The home club has been one of the more pleasant surprises of the year, sitting at 40-39 and hanging around the wild card chatter, and Sandy Alcantara getting the ball at home is exactly the kind of spot that tilts a game in the right way. He has logged 16 starts already, eating innings the way he always does, and there is something familiar about him working in this building where the dimensions are roomy and the air is heavy. That comfort tends to show up in his line, and he has a way of keeping crooked numbers off the board even when he is not at his sharpest. The other side of the story is the kind of detail that flies under the radar. Cal Quantrill takes the mound for Texas, and here is the thing, this is his first actual start of the season. He has been working as a multi-inning reliever for months on end, so stretching him out tonight is a genuine question mark, and the bullpen behind him is going to be on high alert from the very first inning. There is also a little wrinkle of irony baked into this one, since Quantrill spent time pitching for this exact same Miami organization last year before bouncing his way around the league. He knows the building, sure, but the building knows him too, and that cuts both ways. Then you peek at the Texas lineup card and the holes start showing up everywhere. Corey Seager is still on the concussion list, Evan Carter is dealing with an oblique strain, and the rotation lost Jack Leiter to the injured list just a few days ago. That is a serious chunk of talent missing on both sides of the ball, and a club that already ranks among the lower-scoring road outfits in baseball is now leaning on its B group to do the heavy lifting. The home side has won 14 of their last 18 entering this series, and the record in front of their own crowd has been the engine of that run, fueled by the scrappy, contact-heavy style Clayton McCullough has leaned into all season. Stack the rotation matchup, the lineup gap, the venue, and the form, and the path of least resistance only points one direction. As our first pick for this matchup, the Miami Marlins money line is our full game side pick. The other side of this card is where things get interesting in a different way, because Lone Depot Park is one of those quirky environments that carries its own gravity when it comes to the run column. The roof is almost always closed during a Miami summer, the air inside stays heavy and still, and the outfield alleys have a habit of swallowing fly balls that would carry out in plenty of other yards. That park factor matters, and it has shown up loudly in the home splits this season, with the bottom of the scoreboard going quiet far more often than it goes loud at this address. Layer on top of that the actual offenses we are watching tonight, because neither club is built to bludgeon you. The home side plays a contact-first, station-to-station brand of baseball, the kind of attack that prioritizes putting the ball in play over launching it into orbit. Their team slugging numbers sit comfortably below the league average, and even on their best nights, they tend to win by scratching across runs rather than stacking 3-run innings. The road group on this card has been similarly streaky in the run-scoring department, leaning on stringing together singles rather than swinging for the fences, and their offensive numbers away from home have been near the bottom of the league. There is also a recent rhythm worth noticing without leaning on it too hard, because the last few meetings between these two clubs have skewed toward the quieter side of the ledger, and Monday's series opener fit right into that same low-scoring pattern. Honestly, the pitching matchup adds another layer to all this, because even with the very real questions about how deep a stretched-out reliever can take Texas tonight, the ratios he has posted across his work this season have actually been pretty tidy. And the home arm is the type who chews up early innings and keeps traffic off the bases. Could this thing blow up? Sure, baseball does what baseball does, and one ugly inning can flip the math in a hurry. But every structural piece of this game, the dome, the park factor, the two offenses that lean more singles than slug, and the rhythm of recent meetings, all of it nudges the same way. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.